Let's talk about Taiwan, a vibrant democracy, a place where political passions run high and the stakes are never small. Recently, the island just survived a political drama more intense than any TV finale, a real-life saga that had millions glued to their screens and social media feeds. This was the Great Recall of 2025, a nationwide effort to kick out 24 opposition lawmakers from the Kuomintang, or KMT, the party that has long been a major force in Taiwan's political landscape. It wasn't a minor squabble, it was a high-stakes showdown that gripped the nation, with emotions running high on both sides and the future of Taiwan's legislature hanging in the balance. The recall votes, held over several weekends, were meant to be a reckoning, a chance for the public to punish politicians they felt had crossed the line, and to send a message about accountability in government. The spectacle dominated headlines: passionate rallies, fiery speeches, relentless mudslinging, and a media frenzy that dissected every twist and turn. If successful, the recalls would have shifted the balance of power in Taiwan's legislature, giving the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP, a clear path to pass laws and push their agenda with little resistance. If they failed, it would be a humiliating defeat for the organizers, and a huge win for the opposition, signaling that the public wasn't on board with such drastic measures. So, what happened? Spoiler alert, the recalls failed spectacularly, in a result that stunned many and left political analysts scrambling for answers. Not a single one of the 24 targeted lawmakers was recalled. Every single one survived the political storm, emerging even more determined. The effort fizzled, leaving the DPP looking clumsy, and the KMT emboldened, their supporters energized for the next political battle. The aftershocks are still being felt today, July 27, 2025, as politicians and citizens alike try to make sense of what happened and what it means for the future. The world was watching, especially China, as the outcome had implications not just for Taiwan's internal politics, but also for its delicate relationship with Beijing and the broader region. This was a story about power, protest, and the unpredictable reality of democracy. A reminder that in Taiwan, the people's voice can surprise even the most seasoned politicians. It showed that even the most passionate movements can stumble if they misread the public mood, and that political momentum can shift in an instant. The failed recall set the stage for an even more contentious chapter in Taiwan's political story, with both sides now preparing for the next big fight. So how did it all go so wrong for the people who wanted it so badly? What miscalculations led to such a dramatic reversal of fortune? Let's break down the mechanics, the drama, and the fallout. Buckle up, because Taiwan's political roller coaster is just getting started. Firing a politician in Taiwan isn't easy. It's a marathon, not a sprint. The process is intentionally designed to be long, difficult, and full of obstacles, making sure that only the most determined campaigns stand a chance. If you think you can just gather a few signatures and be done, think again. The recall process has 3 tough stages, each one more challenging than the last. It's a test of organization, persistence, and public support. First, the proposal stage. Here, you need to gather signatures from at least 1% of eligible voters in the lawmakers' district. That might sound small, but in practice it means hundreds or even thousands of signatures, each one verified and checked. Next comes the endorsement stage. Now you have to collect signatures from 10% of voters, and you only have 60 days to do it. The clock is ticking, and every signature counts. This is where most campaigns start to feel the pressure. This stage weeds out the unorganized and the unserious, leaving only the most committed groups still standing. Many campaigns stall here, unable to keep up the momentum. If you clear those hurdles, you face the final boss, the recall vote itself. This is the moment of truth, where all your hard work is put to the test. Here's the catch: not only must yes votes outnumber no votes, but at least 25% of all eligible voters must vote yes. That's a huge bar to clear, especially in districts with low turnout. That turnout threshold is brutal. It's not enough to convince a majority. You need to mobilize a massive portion of the electorate, many of whom might not care or even know about the recall. It means you need overwhelming enthusiasm, not just a simple majority. The energy and passion of your supporters have to be off the charts to make a dent. The Bluebird movement, leading the recalls, thought a massive, coordinated campaign could overcome voter apathy. They poured in resources, volunteers, and media attention, hoping to spark a political wildfire. By targeting 24 KMT lawmakers at once, they hoped to create a national wave of anger and momentum, turning local recalls into a countrywide movement. They wanted to turn the recall into a referendum on the KMT itself, making it about more than just individual politicians, about the future direction of Taiwan's politics. It was an all-or-nothing gamble, a high-stakes bet that could reshape the political landscape if it succeeded. But as we saw, the system is designed to make recalls hard to win. Every step is a barrier, and the law is stacked against challengers. Most attempts fizzle out before the final vote, defeated by bureaucracy, low turnout, or sheer exhaustion. The Bluebird movement underestimated just how high the bar was. Even with energy and organization, the numbers just weren't on their side. Their bold plan was ambitious, but ultimately, deeply flawed. The reality of the recall process proved far tougher than they imagined. The rules weren't on their side. Every legal detail, every requirement was another mountain to climb, and that made all the difference. In Taiwan, recalling a politician isn't just complicated, it's almost impossible. The Bluebird movement, a coalition of civic groups, students and citizens, was furious at the KMT and its ally, the Taiwan People's Party. Their anger? The opposition's push for controversial parliamentary reforms, seen as a power grab to cripple President Lai Ching-te. Protesters filled the streets, waving flags and chanting for weeks. The Bluebird name became a symbol of hope and resistance. Their message, the KMT, was undermining democracy and making Taiwan vulnerable to Beijing. The recall was their weapon to punish lawmakers who championed these bills. They mobilized online, held slick press conferences, and painted the 24 KMT lawmakers as villains. For a while, it looked like they might succeed, but passion doesn't always translate into votes. The KMT didn't just defend, they counterattacked. They called the recall a DPP-orchestrated witch hunt, not a true expression of democracy. Their message, the DPP lost the legislature and was now trying to win back power through recalls. The KMT defended their reforms as necessary for government transparency and legislative oversight. Their clever tactic? Tell supporters to boycott the vote. By staying home, they made it nearly impossible for the recall to hit the 25% threshold. Oppose the recall, don't vote, became their rallying cry. They framed participation as legitimizing a political farce. The result? A one-sided election, with the Bluebird movement fighting against a wall of apathy. The KMT's passive resistance exploited the system's biggest weakness. Why did the movement fail? Turnout or the lack of it? The KMT's stay-home strategy worked perfectly. Polling stations were quiet, the 25% threshold was impossible to reach. Many voters were simply tired of endless political conflict after January's elections. The Bluebird movement spread itself too thin by targeting 24 lawmakers at once. Their national message didn't always connect with local concerns. Some KMT lawmakers were popular in their districts regardless of party politics. Public opinion on the reforms was divided, not the black and white issue the protesters claimed. In the end, outrage didn't translate into enough votes. This wasn't just a local drama. Beijing watched closely. China preferred the recalls to fail, as a strong KMT means more gridlock and less resistance to Beijing. Chinese media spun the result as a rejection of the DPP and a sign of public fatigue with instability. For the US and other democracies, the saga raised concerns about Taiwan's political stability. Washington wants a reliable partner, not a government paralyzed by infighting. The failed recalls ended one chapter of turmoil, but cemented legislative gridlock. The process showed Taiwan's democracy is resilient, but also deeply divided. The world saw both the strength and the fragility of Taiwan's political system. The stakes for Taiwan's democracy, and its place in the world, remain sky high. For President Lai and the DPP, the failed recall was a major blow, not just politically but also emotionally. The party had invested significant energy and resources into the campaign, hoping it would shift the balance of power in their favor. They'd hoped the recalls would break the legislative deadlock that has stalled so many of their key initiatives and reforms. Instead, the KMT and TPP majority remains firmly in control, continuing to block the DPP's agenda at every turn and celebrating their ability to hold the line. The DPP now looks weak and increasingly out of touch with public sentiment, as frustration grows among their supporters and critics alike. The KMT feels vindicated by the outcome and is doubling down on its opposition, using the momentum to rally its base and strengthen its position. Every major policy, from social programs to national defense, has now become a fierce battlefield, with heated debates and little room for compromise. Legislative paralysis threatens to derail key initiatives, especially those related to national defense and security, raising concerns about Taiwan's future stability. The ongoing infighting creates an image of chaos and dysfunction, exactly the kind of division that Beijing hopes to exploit for its own interests. The DPP must now regroup, negotiate, and seek compromise, hoping to peel off opposition lawmakers and build fragile alliances to move forward. The dream of breaking the gridlock with recalls is over, leaving the party to reflect on what went wrong and how to regain momentum. Now, it's back to the hard work of governing with a weak hand, facing an uncertain road ahead, and the challenge of restoring public trust. The Great Recall was a stress test for Taiwan's democracy. The process was peaceful and legal, a sign of democratic maturity. But it exposed deep polarization and made compromise harder. Both sides framed the recall as an existential battle, deepening divisions. The 25% turnout rule proved decisive. Some say it's too high, others say it protects against frivolous recalls. The debate over recall rules will continue. The lesson, passion, and protest aren't enough. You need broad support and a strategy that reaches beyond your base. The silent majority matters as much as the vocal minority. Taiwan's democracy survived, but it's left with cracks that need mending. The next chapter will be even tougher. After the failed recall, Taiwan faces a new political reality. The KMT is energized, ready to challenge President Lai at every turn. Legislative gridlock is now the norm. The DPP and Bluebird movement must rethink their strategy, confrontation or compromise. International partners are watching to see if Taiwan can maintain stability and defend itself. The KMT may push for more dialogue with China, raising hopes and suspicions. The Great Recall was just one chapter in Taiwan's story. It revealed deep divisions but also a commitment to process and law. The coming months will be critical for all sides. Taiwan's political journey is far from over, and the world is still watching.